Hey guys, I'm Nirav from TechRaptor. Today I want to talk a little bit about something that's been in the news a little recently. Popped up again because we saw the price of Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War for the Xbox Series X and PS5 is going to be $70 US. In addition to that, NBA 2K21 has already been announced to be $70 as well. So I think that at this point we can say that next gen we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that. So why is this a problem? Is this corporate greed or is it inflation? Let's take a look at the numbers. In the NES/SNES era, video games could cost anywhere from $40 to $80, sometimes depending on their scope and sometimes not. Games with more complicated development cycles were usually more expensive, but that wasn't necessarily the case. So Super Mario 64, for instance, featured some of the most advanced 3D technology in gaming at the time, and it was $70 at release, launched with the N64. In today's money, that is $115.60. So that's a big, expensive Mario. On the other hand, The Secret of Mana, which is a pretty sizable JRPG, released for $40 back in 1993. $71 in today's money. Still a lot. The point I'm trying to make here is that these prices don't really follow much consistency in relation to content, or at least they didn't in the before times. In 2005, with the Wii/Xbox 360/PS3 era coming at us very quickly, the industry collectively decided that full-priced games were going to be $60. This wasn't done to help consumers save money, so make no mistake, corporations are not your friends. While it's nice that content-packed games like Super Smash Bros. Ultimate are only $60, it is still a double-edged sword. I mean, look at Kirby Star Allies, for instance, $60 at launch. And as much as I love that little pink blob, that was maybe a $30 game at best. Selling it for $60 was outrageous. The reason for that standardized $60 back in 2005 was to set customer expectations. If a customer walked into a GameStop and they saw a $40 price tag, they would know that it was a smaller game than the others of its kind, like Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, and they would expect that from it going in. Additionally, gamers would always know exactly how much money they'd need for the games they want. You want to know how much next year's Call of Duty is? It's the same amount you paid for last year's Call of Duty. You know you want Call of Duty every single year? You set $60 aside for it every year, and it's there. That is, until now. So first, let's talk a little bit about budget and scope. So, for reference, when Wing Commander 4, The Price of Freedom, was released for MS-DOS back in '96, it was the most expensive video game ever made, $12 million. Largely due to featuring Mark Hamill in an FMV role. I guess he is he's sort of the Wing Commander, X-Wing Commander. By 1999, that game had finally broken even, selling about 500,000 copies all over the world at an average price of $20. So the most expensive game ever made in 1996 was $20 for consumers. In more recent years, Fallout 4 has been reported to have stolen the title for the most expensive game ever made, although Bethesda doesn't disclose exact numbers on that kind of thing. Estimates and industry insiders have set the development cost plus marketing for Fallout 4 at well above $300 million, more than pretty much any non-Marvel movie. The most expensive game of 2015 costs $60 for consumers. Now, let's look at Super Mario 64, and then look at Fallout 4. Think about it like this. If a game costs 100 million USD to develop and market, and each copy sells for $60, and let's discount sales entirely because barely a fraction of game sales happen after week 1, that game needs to sell 1.7 million copies to be profitable. For larger games, that isn't a crazy goal. Going back to Fallout 4, estimates put that at about 40 million sales. So don't worry about poor little Bethesda. Todd made bank on that one. And also all the collectibles that I bought. Point is, if an indie game costs 5 million USD to develop and it only sells 500k copies at $20 a piece, your indie developer has just gone bankrupt. For every Stardew Valley or Undertale, there are 500 indie games that someone poured their heart and soul into that get lost in the shuffle of Steam or the Nintendo eShop and barely ever see the light of day, and those people are broke now. All this aside, no one can argue that the general scope of a full-price game and even smaller games has changed in the last 15 years. So what about inflation? Some people are going to argue that $70 games are way overdue and they're just a mark of the free market correcting itself, attempting to reach equilibrium again. I'm sure you all remember that supply-demand chart from econ class. The free market, when pushed to the right or left by manipulating price, is going to attempt to correct itself, finding equilibrium, which, for a reminder, is where supply equals demand. It's the perfect price point that balances the cost of creation and the cost of sales. The price of video games has artificially been halted at $60 for 15 years now. It hasn't grown with the rising cost of development or the quantity of games that are being produced. So what about the other angle of that? Demand. Video games are the biggest entertainment industry in the world now, and about a third of all people on Earth play video games with some regularity. And yes, in this instance, mobile games are video games. Deal with it. By not changing the price to match with the naturally increasing quantity, we've pushed the market point to here. In an idea of free market, the market point is here. The equilibrium price is the only price where the plans of the consumers and the plans of the producers agree, which is where the amount of product the consumers want to buy is equal to the amount that the producers want to sell you. Whether or not you agree with the concept of the free market, most economists will agree that reaching equilibrium in this instance is good. We want that. I mean, in theory, it is the best price for everyone, right? What I'm getting at with all this is that if we do want to reach equilibrium again, we do need to raise the price of games to match the increased output of the market, right? Remember when there used to be like 3 or 4 video games a year that were worth playing, and now there's hundreds every year? But we don't exist in a vacuum. We don't exist in a theoretical economic simulation, no matter what Elon Musk tells you. In the real world, we, the consumers, don't react to price changes. We react to wage changes. Studies have shown time and time again that consumers buy more goods not when the price of those goods drop, but when their wages rise. And, I mean, that makes sense. You get a big Christmas bonus and you go buy a big Nintendo. You love to see it. So let's compare wages with inflation a little bit. If we take $60 in 2005 money and we inflate it to match 2018 money, that puts us at $77, about a 30% increase. Yikes. If we take $60 in 2005 money and we inflate it to match 2018, that puts us at a number. Okay, Google. $77 divided by $60.
The answer is approximately 1.283.
Okay. So let's compare wages with inflation. If we take $60 in 2005 money and inflate it to match 2018, well, that puts us at $77, which is about a 28% increase. Do you want to buy $77 games? I don't. But why? Isn't $70 the market trying to correct itself and find the best price for all of us? I don't want to pay $70, and you don't want to pay $70 because our wages haven't increased. If the US's minimum wage kept up with inflation, we'd be at $10.75 an hour right now. We are at $7.25 an hour. The Economic Policy Institute claims that if minimum wage kept up with the actual worker output, as far as how much product they were creating, then it would be more like $19.33 an hour. We're not even at half of that. Remember that economic theory doesn't exist in a vacuum. If we're all making $20 an hour minimum, everyone would jump for joy at $70 games, right? But that's not the world we live in. I also want to mention that the 2 games that are seeing the rising prices, Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War from Activision and NBA 2K21 from 2K Games, are infamous for microtransactions. NBA 2K20 was literally unplayable without spending about $40 on top of the $60 you bought to buy into the game. The last Call of Duty had a promotion to pre-order the Battle Pass before even buying the game. And in a time of loot boxes and Battle Passes and locking content behind paywalls, I can understand why people are nervous. I mean, on one hand, if we have a single-player game like Breath of the Wild 2 is $70, yes, absolutely, pre-ordered. On the other hand, if WWE 2K21 is $70, what the fuck? Let's not forget how expensive games are overseas, too. What's going to happen to the Australians that are already paying 100 AUD for full-price games? Or the Canadians that are paying 90 CAD? And do not even get me started on places like Brazil and India. Game stores are an absolute nightmare over there. Shout out to Steam, by the way, for regional pricing all their games. And, well, no other stores. In summary, the price of games rising isn't necessarily due to corporate greed or due to inflation, but the real issue here is that wages have stagnated. As long as people are slaving away for actual pennies, they cannot possibly afford $70 games. Hell, they can't even afford $60 games now. Ellie can't afford $60 games. Her minimum wage hasn't risen at all. Minimum wage workers are going to have to work 10 hours to buy one video game. More than a day of working a retail counter or waiting on tables for one game, and it's not even the whole game. I'm not here to tell you to buy the $70 games or not to buy the $70 games. I mean, you can think if that's the right price for that object. But consider that we are all real people, and we're trying to take part in our favorite hobby with our favorite characters. We work hard for our money, and we want to spend it in a way that counts. Capitalism can eat my butt, dude. Thank you guys for joining me today. If you liked any of this stuff, hit that like and subscribe. There's a comment section down below if you wanna ask any questions or express your love of laissez-faire capitalism like an asshole. Find me on Twitter at Gondizi, and shout out to Business Insider for a lot of this info. Links to those articles are in the description below.